At some point in human history, and we need to take a moment with this, one person looked at a cow, a large, loud, unpredictable animal that weighed half a ton and had horns, and thought, I wonder what happens if I grab that, not the horns, not the tail, the udder. We do not know who this person was. We do not know what was going through their head. We do not know if they had tried everything else first, or if they woke up that morning and just felt unusually adventurous. But they got underneath the animal. They grabbed it. They squeezed, something came out, and this is the part that really requires a moment. They drank it. Not only that, they enjoyed it enough to go back the next day. And then they told other people. They gathered their friends, their family, everyone they knew and said, you have to try this. This is either the bravest thing a human has ever done, or the most unhinged. And the answer, it turns out, is neither. The answer is hunger. And the story of how that one deeply questionable decision changed the entire course of human civilization is one of the best stories nobody ever tells properly. So let's tell it properly. Here is the first thing you need to know. Drinking milk as an adult is weird, not slightly unusual weird. Biologically, genuinely, scientifically weird. Every mammal on Earth produces milk. Every mammal drinks it as a baby. And every mammal, without a single exception, loses the ability to properly digest it once they stop nursing. Every single one. Cats, dogs, elephants, whales, chimpanzees. Every mammal that has ever existed on this planet stops being able to process milk properly once it grows up. Except, and here is where it gets interesting, a small percentage of humans. The enzyme that breaks down lactose, the sugar in milk, is called lactase. Babies make enormous amounts of it. That is literally why babies can drink milk without any problem. It is the whole point, but the body is efficient. Once a baby is weaned, once milk stops being available, the body says, right, we do not need that enzyme anymore. Switches it off. Saves the energy. This happens in 75% of humans on Earth today, 3 out of every 4 people. If they drink a large glass of fresh milk, their body cannot process it properly. Bloating, cramps. Other consequences we will describe only as significant. Now here is the part that everyone gets backwards, that 75%. They are not the ones with the problem. They are the normal ones. They are what humans are supposed to be. The 25% who can drink milk without any issue. The ones who have never understood what the fuss is about. They are the genetic mutation. They are the odd ones. They are the ones evolution did something unusual to. And the story of how that mutation happened and why is the actual story of milk. So if most humans cannot digest milk, who started drinking it? And more importantly, why? The answer, as with almost every great human discovery, is because things were going very badly. Around 10,000 years ago, humans in the Middle East began domesticating animals, goats first, then sheep, then cattle. The plan was simple: keep the animal, kill the animal, eat the animal, use the hide for warmth, use the bones for tools. Nobody was thinking about milk. That was not the goal. That was not even on the list, but animals produce milk constantly when they are nursing, every single day, reliably, regardless of the weather, the season, or whether the hunt went well. And 10,000 years ago, food was not guaranteed. A bad winter, a failed crop, a drought that lasted longer than expected, and an entire group of people could starve. And here was this animal, just standing there, producing something. Every day someone tried it. It probably tasted strange. The smell alone would have been unusual. And for most people who tried it, remember, most people could not digest lactose properly. The experience that followed would have been, let us say, memorable, uncomfortable, possibly humiliating, but it did not kill them. And when the alternative was starvation, strange and uncomfortable and slightly humiliating was an absolutely reasonable trade, so they kept drinking it. And something extraordinary started happening, something nobody saw coming. Something that would eventually change the genetics of entire populations of humans. Here is where the story becomes genuinely astonishing. In populations that kept animals and drank milk regularly, a genetic mutation appeared. Now, random mutations happen all the time in every population. Most do nothing. Some cause problems. Very occasionally, one turns out to be useful. This one was useful in a way that is almost hard to believe. The mutation kept lactase production running into adulthood. The body did not switch off the enzyme after weaning. It just kept going, kept making it, indefinitely. In a world where most people could not digest fresh milk without significant personal consequences, this mutation was worth an enormous amount. The people with it could drink milk freely, pull more calories from it, survive droughts and famines that killed others, have more children, feed those children better, and pass the mutation on to every single one of them. The people without it could still drink milk. But every time they did, their body reminded them that it was not entirely happy about the situation. Over thousands of years, with nobody understanding genetics, with nobody planning any of this, with nobody making any deliberate decisions about it whatsoever, the mutation spread through populations that kept dairy animals. Today in Northern Europe, up to 95% of people carry this mutation. In East Asia, where dairy farming was historically rare, less than 10% carry it. In West Africa, less than 10%. The map of who can drink milk comfortably today is almost perfectly, the map of where humans were keeping dairy animals 8,000 years ago. The animal shaped the human, not the other way around. Now, here is where the story gets strange in a different way. Archaeological evidence, pots, residue analysis, ancient fat traces found in the walls of clay vessels shows that humans were processing milk into cheese and fermented dairy products thousands of years before the lactase persistence mutation became widespread. Let that settle for a moment. Most of the people making cheese could not properly digest fresh milk. They were lactose intolerant, making dairy products every day. Why? Because fermentation is magic. When milk ferments, when bacteria get to work on it and break it down into yogurt, kefir, aged cheese, the lactose content drops dramatically. The bacteria do the digestive work that the human gut cannot do. The people making this did not know about bacteria. The concept did not exist yet. They had no idea what was happening at a microscopic level, but they noticed, through trial and error, through experimentation, through some very uncomfortable afternoons, that milk left in certain conditions became something different, something their stomachs could handle, something that lasted longer without going off, something that was, against all expectations, actually delicious. They did not invent cheese because they wanted cheese. They invented cheese because they were lactose intolerant, needed the calories, and were determined enough to find a workaround. Every cheese that has ever existed, every brie, every cheddar, every parmesan, is the direct result of lactose intolerant ancient humans refusing to give up. That is the most satisfying food fact in history. Once dairy took hold, once populations had the mutation and the technology to process milk, the effects on human civilization were enormous. A single cow produces enough milk to supplement the diet of several families every day, without being slaughtered, without being replaced. It was the first renewable food source humans ever had. Before dairy, if you wanted calories from an animal, you had to kill the animal. Once it was dead, it was gone. You needed another one. A dairy herd was different. It kept giving. Day after day after day, in regions where this took hold, population density increased dramatically. More food meant more people could survive in the same area. More people meant larger settlements. Larger settlements meant that not everyone needed to farm. Some people could build, some could trade, some could think, some could govern. The Roman army was issued cheese as a standard ration. Portable, calorie-dense, did not spoil quickly. An entire empire marched partly on fermented milk. In the Norse world, cattle were measured as units of wealth. Not gold, not land, cows. A man's worth was counted in dairy animals. The agricultural revolution, the single most important shift in human history, the moment we went from small wandering bands to cities and civilizations, was significantly accelerated by one decision: getting underneath an animal and squeezing it. We think of milk as the most ordinary thing in the world. It comes in a carton. It sits in the fridge. Children drink it. It is completely unremarkable. But look at what it actually is. It is a product that 75% of adult humans cannot fully digest, that we drink from a completely different species, that we had to genetically mutate to handle properly, that we were fermenting and processing thousands of years before our bodies even caught up with what we were doing. And it started with one person, hungry, standing next to an animal, making a decision that, by any reasonable measure, made absolutely no sense. They did not have a plan. They did not have a hypothesis. They were not running an experiment. They were just hungry enough and creative enough and stubborn enough to try. And because they did, and because they told someone else, and because that someone else told someone else, a chain of human curiosity stretching across 10,000 years eventually produced every glass of milk, every wheel of cheese, every cup of yogurt that has ever existed. The most important discoveries in human history were not made by the most comfortable people in the room. They were made by the hungriest ones. The ones with nothing left to lose and an animal standing nearby. And honestly, good for them. Every single one of them. Slow down, think a little.